Well, it is a beautiful day here in Texas. The sun is shining. It's 37 degrees on my thermometer on my truck. I want to say at the outset that I've tried to position myself neutrally, emotionally, to what I'm going to say here, because I don't take any great pleasure in saying it. But I'm dealing with an article, and it was forwarded to me because I'm not always around to pick these things up. The Winnipeg Sun, of course, Martin Harder, the publicity hound of Winkler, says this about the following the days and the hours in the arrest of Maxine Bernier. Quote, I just want to say to Maxine Bernier, it's not all about Maxine Bernier, close quote. A clearly frustrated Harder said over the phone Friday morning. My concern is only for my community, I'm quoting Martin, but this is about creating controversy for us within our community. And for him to come in here and stir the pot is very unfortunate because he doesn't realize the damage he's doing. Shocking. I want to go on a little further here before I make my personal remarks. Goes on to tell us that Harder's been our mayor since 2006. And he said he worried that Bernier's appearance would have been another black eye for a city he said has already received a lot of bad publicity lately when it comes to the fight against COVID. Information released the first week of June states that just 25% of Winkler adults had received the dose. That's fact. That's still a fact today. Quote, as a community, lately we have been under the spotlight and we are a target within the healthcare environment because of vaccination rates. It comes and an easy way to create controversy. I don't know, there's something wrong with that statement anyway. What we want to see the community work together and not work to exacerbate the divide in our community that has already taken root and may take generations to fix. Martin, this is for you. You're embarrassing our city. You've been a mayor, you've been a good mayor. At times you've been a friend to a lot of businesses. But fundamentally, you stopped being the mayor of Winkler because only 25% of the people in our area, which is 25% of Winkler, have been vaccinated. And you're coming out hard on the left for the other 75%. That means you have effectively become the mayor for 25%. On a straight up vote, you're out. If this was a straight up vote on popularity and the current path which you're taking, you're out. You're on the wrong side, Martin. Stirring up controversy. You accused this individual, Maxine Bernier, of stirring up controversy. Why? Because he chooses to represent the other side? Because he chooses to speak truth to power? Something you haven't learned yet to do in all your years of being a mayor. You have sold out to the left, Martin. There's no doubt about it. All your little cute quips about Open Manitoba and standing with people of Winkler as their businesses remain shut. We know lockdowns are political. Please, stop trying to sell bullshit, because that's what it is. Lockdowns are political. They have nothing more to do with COVID than toilet paper has to do with COVID. And we know how scarce that became. It troubles me to speak to you in such harsh tones. But our history goes back further to the days when you had the commodities business, working two ends against the middle, always working two ends against the middle. Lower the rates. Got to get those truckers to haul for less. And then I served on the Winkler Chamber of Commerce. I remember the day our chamber received a harsh letter of rebuke from you, scolding us as if we were children. We sat there, dumbfounded that our newly elected mayor would choose to talk to us in such tone. And I wrote back to you. And what I said then is still true today. You've got to decide at the outset what you want the outcome to look like, because it's to that goal that you will work. And if it's reconciliation and healing, if it's about a community that has a right and a freedom to choose then you work towards that and stay in the middle neutral ice. You have no business being on the hard left. You're way outside your lane of travel. You're way outside the mandate that the good people of Winkler gave you. Clearly, you have exceeded that by a healthy margin. And I challenge you to come on this political platform, onto this Facebook page, social media, and defend yourself, because you have not done that since back in March of 2019, when you told us that the Winkler police were not going to be involved in ticketing people. Martin, you're a liar. They were very much involved in that. You have been lying to us for a long time. Now it's time to set the record straight. We know where you stand. You're on the hard left. You might as well be flying the Liberal flag at City Hall in Winkler. It's distressing. It really is. I'm not asking you to do anything except what I said a minute ago. Come on Facebook and talk to the people of Winkler, because 75% are not in agreement with you. Why do I say 75? Because the vaccination rate is only at 25%. That should tell you something. That's not a bridge too far. It's easy to connect those dots. You've got 75% of the people in your city, of which you're supposed to be the mayor for all the people, not some of the people, all of the people. And to encourage them to make a good decision for themselves. You do not take that choice from them, nor does this federal government or anybody else. The minute we take choice out of the equation, we don't have a democracy. We have a dictatorship. And if anything is going to be true about choice, it has to remain. After all the arguments, after all the facts, after all the evidence is presented, the individual still has the right to choose. Nobody takes that from us, because then we're a banana republic. And all we have left to do is for the prime puppet in Ottawa to declare himself to be the prime minister forever. And we might as well then align with Vladimir Putin. While the rest of the world was sleeping, that's exactly what he did. For the rest of his life, he's going to be the president of Russia. We're better than that. We're way better than that. We've all been saying the same thing. We're going to get through this together. And my subsequent follow-up question has been this: what are we going to look like on the other side? You have no business practicing and giving out health advice. You're a mayor. You could give us some advice on commodities. You're an expert in that. It made you a millionaire. But when I want advice about a mechanical issue, I talk to my mechanic. I have a legal problem. I phone up my lawyer. I have a spiritual problem. I talk to my pastor or a good brother in arms. But when my pastor puts on the doctor's hat, as we saw from the two pastors, one from Steinbach and one from Morden, my only reaction is I should run like hell from that church. Because the moment they're going to use the pulpit to preach anything other than the gospel of Jesus, we're in trouble. Those two guys, like yourself, well outside their lane of travel. There was no schooling they got, none that you got, none that I got, to speak on medical terms. There's no schooling in the Master's Divinity program or in seminary school that teaches a pastor how to advise his congregation on medical choices. That's between that person and the doctor, and that's where it should stay. It should stay out of the political realm. All we're trying to do as a small group of people in our Be Informed, Be Smart Winkler Facebook page is to present the facts. We're getting all the information from the hard left, so we don't have to focus there. What we're trying to do is present an opposing position of which there is good evidence, medical evidence, not conjured up by tinfoil hat conspiracists, some dark room that don't get out and in sunshine and have no friends. No, this is a medical community, a few of which are choosing to speak out against what is being touted as the only cure. The only cure. The COVID marketing machine is greased and in full flight. All we have is a foot on the accelerator, and there's nobody pumping the brakes at all. Well, we're going to pump the brakes. That's what we're here for. We're going to pump the brakes and give people a chance, a second sober thought at it, and make a good decision. There are three things that are characteristic of human wisdom. Some would argue more, but three for sure. Factual knowledge. You must know what the facts are. Insight to the situational dynamics around you, individually, as a community, as a country. And thirdly, you must have the resolve to act. So to paraphrase that a little bit more, you got to know what's going on. You got to know what's going on around you. Then you have to have the courage to act. There's no shame in taking the vaccine. That's not the purpose of this group. And there is no shame in refusing to take it. It's a choice that you make. Healthcare is a choice. In this country, a woman has the right to choose to abort her baby, like it or not. Most of us are deeply offended and hurt and troubled by that. But she has that right. By the law of the land, she has a right to choose to abort her baby. If we take away the choice of healthcare, are we not saying that abortion is a far more important choice that remains, but healthcare choice is not? It's essentially what you're saying, Martin. You're on the hard left, pushing the vaccine. The only way out. You must be vaccinated. Your frustration is with yourself, my friend. Only 25% of the people in this area believe what they're being told and are having a hard time and are in the process of choosing. I would not say they have resolved to not take it, and I have not said, and they wouldn't say they've resolved to take it. In marketing, you can accomplish a lot of things by the narrative you put out. But what's been accomplished by this narrative of this government, the one that you're promoting, leaves us to think the following. We don't like it, we don't trust it, and you scare us. And that's enough for anybody to pump the brakes. The COVID vaccination promotion program is a complete disaster. Listening to those two pastors talking with Josh Reimer, that was a joke. I could hardly stomach it. They're serving up the softest questions of any kind you could imagine. It was like watching the liberal media interview Joe Biden. They don't give him any hard questions because he's not that smart. He can't handle it. Here's these two pastors asking Josh Reimer questions that anybody would have guessed. Questions like, is there any human remains that have been cultivated from aborted fetuses? What the hell do you think she's going to say? Oh yeah, there's lots of them in there. Go ahead, it's good for you. Seriously. I'm a part of this community as much as anybody else. I love this city. I was absent for a few years. I came back in the latter part of 2019. I took up residence here permanently again. I purchased the house in 216. I always knew when I left Arizona I'd be back in Winkler. It's a great community. People love Winkler who live there. People love Winkler who come and visit us. People have loved our mayor who've come to visit us. We've been proud of you, Martin, for many years. You need to come back to the fold, buddy, because you're way out on the left. And on the left, all you're going to have is the left. What's left? You've said some things that are very disturbing. You said things directly to me, accusing me of being a troublemaker in Winkler, because I choose to simply put evidence out and speak truth to power. You don't like that. I know you don't like that. You've never liked that. You don't like anybody that opposes you. I'm not here to oppose you. I've been praying for you at times. But officially, as of now, I have no qualms about saying it directly to you. You're on the adversary list. You've made your way on there yourself. And unless you can see your way back to being a member of this community who supports every other member in whatever choice they're going to make, I'm going to choose to treat you as an adversary. And if you see hashtags appear that you don't like, they're from me. Or perhaps somebody else. I don't know. But I'll be in on it. You don't speak for Winkler anymore. You're speaking for yourself. You say it's not about Maxine Bernier. I can tell you one thing. It sure as hell isn't about Martin Harder. So stop being a publicity hound and using the office of mayor to bully, intimidate, cajole, and scare the hell out of the people of Winkler. They have a right to choose. And when they make that choice, you honor that choice. That's what a mayor would do. He would say, I respect your choice. Take the vaccine. I respect your choice not to. After all, isn't there a 99.69% recovery rate? Isn't ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, aren't these all effective? You have only to examine the evidence that is in plain sight, because we're all getting our news sources from the same sources. We get our news from the same sources, all of us. Nobody has a unique news source. It's as common as going to the grocery store and buying the staples of life. Eggs, bread, butter, flour, sugar, salt, pepper. And you go home and you bake it. And you make it into something that you want. The facts are there. That's called an opinion, when you assemble and look at the facts and come to your own understanding. You're insulting people by telling them that they have to do what the province says they have to do. And when I look at that reopen plan of Manitoba posted by Pallister, I'm offended. Because it clearly points to numbers and percentages, and he wants to bring our province in line with whatever the higher orders are. What we have are puppets on strings, just like Pinocchio. Except with Pinocchio, we knew when he was lying. And the strings are being pulled by Ottawa. What's happening in this country is an atrocity. It's a shame. And it's taken so little time for us to look around and not even recognize the city, the province, the country that we live in. This isn't just about COVID. It's about choice. And that choice has to be there. In our faith, this is going to be not pertinent to those who don't believe our faith, but we are a community of faith. We don't worship government in Winkler. We worship God. But in our faith, if love is the highest ethic, and it is, then the right to choose that love has to be there as well. You can't have somebody, and God is not that somebody, who says to us, you must love me. How would that go over in your marriage, Martin, if you told Val, you must love me, regardless? No. She chooses to love you. We choose to love each other. We choose to love our God because he gives us that inherent choice. It's choice. After all the arguments are made, even in a court of law, when the lawyers have presented their cases and made their closing arguments, it's always choice that remains, the choice of the judge to decide which evidence weighs heavier. The minute we take choice away, we're not a democrat, not a democracy anymore. We're under dictatorship. And as I see people afraid, they're not as much afraid of COVID as they're afraid of what's happening in this country. Martin, you need to be a part of the solution, buddy. You need to get in line with where you are. You're a native son of Winkler. I am not. I've been here less than 20 years, but I consider myself to be Winkler through and through. You need to come back to the grassroots of what has made this community one of the greatest communities in the country. We are, to borrow on the words of Ronald Reagan, a shining city on the prairies of Canada. When I came back in 2019, I took it upon myself to visit several key leaders in the community, not because I consider them to be close friends. I just thought you could put your finger on the pulse, right on the pulse. That's what I wanted to do. And I had to ask, what's going on here? What a community. Wow, I left here like 4 or 5 years ago. It seems like it's twice as big. And I came to your office. You were, in fact, one of the first people I came to see. You greeted me in a cordial manner, as you always have. And we talked about a lot of things. And one of the things you said, which I will not forget, and I completely agree with, is that a city has a body, a soul, and a spirit. You cannot make a community out of the mere assemblance of buildings and inhabitants. They have to choose to be a community. The physical part of Winkler is evident. It's all over the place. The soul of this city is torn right now. That's not good. We're more divided as a country, as a province, and as a city than we ever thought we ever could be. But isn't that actually the definition of sin? It'll take you further than you wanted to go, keep you longer than you wanted to stay and cause you to pay more than you wanted to pay. I could almost get choked up on this because we're paying a real heavy price right now. The soul of our city and our province and our country are on the line. This is not small potatoes. This is the big game. This is for all the marbles. And the spirit of the city is also something we understand, because we say the spirit is good. The spirit is vibrant. The spirit is hopeful. That's what Winkler has been, and we want it to be that way again. History will judge us by what we do right now. And I can tell you, history does not favor bullies. It does not favor dictators. It just doesn't. It never has. It never will. I hate to be on the wrong side of this equation. We're going to have elections. I'll close with this because I'm already long here. People forget very quickly what happens in a span of a few short years. This year will mark the 20th anniversary of 9/11. 20 years ago, America was attacked like it's never been attacked before. And the heartache and the devastation of all that happened afterward still remains with us today. But can you imagine that only a few short years later, as the very religious organization, the radical Muslim terrorists, radical Islamic terrorists, chose to build their mosques in close proximity to Ground Zero, that even Americans came out to support that right? That was shocking. Donald Trump pledged $6 million to stop it. That's a patriot. Puts his money where his mouth is. But it's not just to build mosques. That'd be one thing. You could say, okay, they have a right to build fortified mosques with walls 4 feet thick. Look it up. I didn't make it up. I don't make anything up. I read, I observe, I display it for others to consider. And then further, in 2016, President Obama, one of the greatest treasonous presidents that America has ever had, declared his full support for building those mosques in close proximity to Ground Zero. What's the point of what I'm saying right now? We easily forget what this province is doing to us and what this country has been, what has been done to our country. And I don't want the electorate to ever forget. In our area, we've been voting in PCs. I mean, you could be a Stone and run for the progressive conservatives, and you could be elected. Stone Friesen, Stone Clausen, Stone Reimer, Stone anything. As long as you're a Mennonite and you run for the PCs, you're in. We don't do that anymore. COVID has taught us a lot of things. And one thing is, don't trust anyone who has lied to you and deceived you as much as we have in the last 18 months or so. Final closing mark. To you, Martin, reconsider your position. We have enjoyed you as mayor for a long time. You're a good person. At your core you are, but I think you have violated your own code and you know it. And sometimes it's hard to put pride aside and come back and say, I was wrong. I'm the mayor of Winkler, all of Winkler, not some of it. Not 25%, not even 75%. I want to be the mayor of all of Winkler. So as much as you have impact in this community, and you do, I encourage you to reconsider your position and return to the old-time value days. God bless you, Mayor Harder, and God bless the people of Winkler.